Hey guys, this is just a quick video to show how I have my Roland TD9 drums set up for Guitar Hero. As you can see, I've got the Roland TD9 model, and I've got it hooked up via MIDI. You can see the MIDI cable right here, going into the back of the Guitar Hero drum set. Then I also have the audio output from the TD9 going to this amp over here. I have the drum volume in the game set to the lowest possible setting, so you hear mainly the drums coming out of here rather than the original drum track in the songs in the game. An interesting thing about the Guitar Hero drum set is that you've only got two cymbals. And most of the time the yellow is the hi-hat. If there's a crash among hi-hats, then the orange is a crash. However, if you're playing a ride cymbal, then the orange is the ride. And if there's a crash among ride cymbals, so you won't hit the same trigger over and over to trigger the ride and the crash, they make the crashes yellow. So, hi-hat, crash, or ride, crash. Now, with a real drum setup like this, you have the hi-hat, the crash, and the ride. Now, ideally, you would want this one, the crash, to be orange when you're hitting a sequence of hi-hats which have crashes mixed in. And then you would want the crash to be yellow when you're playing a sequence of ride cymbals. However, it's not possible to set up the crash to simultaneously or alternately trigger two separate colors. So I was left with the challenge of deciding whether to make the crash symbol a yellow or an orange. Now the hi-hat's obviously a yellow, the ride is obviously an orange. Now at first I had it set up so that the crash symbol was another orange, because that seemed to make sense to me, so I could hit the crash symbol when I was hitting the hi-hat. But that had the problem of when I was playing a sequence of ride cymbals that were interspersed with crashes, I was forced to reach over and hit the hi-hat, which not only is quite a far reach, but also the way I have it set up with the drums coming out of the amp rather than the original drum track in the game sounded like shit. It sounded like I made a mistake in the song when there's all of a sudden a hi-hat where there should have been a crash. And the thing about the ride cymbal is if you hit the edge of it, then you get a ride crash, which, you know, sounds better as an alternative to a crash than, you know, the hi-hat does. So what I did then is I changed it so this is a second yellow. And actually I have the game going here, so let me unplug the MIDI so if I hit red or green I don't screw anything up. So I have this as a second yellow now, which means that if I'm hitting the hi-hat and there's a crash, I do have to reach over to the ride and hit it on the rim, but that sounds a lot better going. And then if I'm hitting the ride cymbal, if I'm doing a sequence of rides interspersed with crashes, I don't have to reach over to the hi-hat. Sounds like crap. Now I can go. Anyway, and then obviously I have the kick drum here. I've got double bass set up for Expert Plus. And the hi-hat pedal doesn't really do anything in the game, and as a matter of fact I have to keep it held down the whole time. I'd like to be more realistic with this setup and play open hi-hats. For example, in the game when there's an accented note, usually it means that it's an open hi-hat, an accented yellow anyway. But the problem is if I lift my foot up and trigger an open hi-hat, then when I put my foot down, that triggers another yellow in the game. And if there's another yellow quickly after that, like if I put my foot down and then hit it, for some reason they both don't trigger. So when you see me playing these drums in Guitar Hero, I'm always going to have my foot down on the hi-hat pedal. Unless I'm playing an Expert Plus song, in which case it'll always be up, because changing the hi-hat open-closed state always breaks combo in Guitar Hero. In addition to that, obviously snare is the red, high tom is the blue, and then for both the mid tom and the low tom, they're both set to trigger green. So kick, yellow, red, another yellow, blue, green, green, and the ride symbol is the orange. And again, if I want it to function as a crash in between hi-hats, I just hit the rim and you get a ride crash, which sounds okay. Well, I think that's about it. And also expect more videos with these drums in the future, not only with Guitar Hero, but me actually playing them, maybe doing some covers or whatever, playing them in, quote, real life rather than this game.